The moment Ethan Miller realized his family's love had limits came on a bright Sunday afternoon high above Manhattan. From the 42nd floor, the city looked calm and powerful, like it always did. Yellow taxis moved like toys below. Sunlight poured through the glass walls of his penthouse, the home he had worked for since his early 20s. It was supposed to be a peaceful day. Instead, it became the day everything changed. Ethan stood near the window when his parents arrived. His mother, Margaret, smiled too quickly. His father, Richard, walked in with stiff shoulders, his jaw already tight. They didn't admire the view or comment on the space, like they used to. They went straight to the living room and sat down, hands folded, faces serious. Ethan felt it immediately. This wasn't a casual visit. "We need to talk," Margaret said. Those 4 words hit harder than any raised voice. Ethan sat across from them, his back straight, his heart alert. He had learned long ago to read moods before words were spoken. Growing up, that skill had kept the peace. Margaret spoke first. She explained that Emily, Ethan's younger sister, was going through a hard time. Her marriage had ended badly. She needed a fresh start, a safe place, something stable. Margaret said all this softly, carefully, like she was handling glass. Then Richard cleared his throat. "We think the penthouse would be perfect for her." The words seemed unreal. Ethan blinked once, certain he had misunderstood. For her. "To visit?" he asked. "No," Margaret said gently. "To live in." The room felt suddenly smaller, like the walls had moved closer. Ethan looked from his mother to his father, waiting for a smile. A sign this was a joke. There was none. "I bought this place," Ethan said slowly. "I live here." Richard nodded, as if Ethan had stated something obvious and unimportant. "You can live anywhere," he said. "You don't have kids. You don't have complications." That sentence carried years of meaning. Ethan had heard versions of it his entire life. He was capable. He was strong. He didn't need help. Emily did. Ethan took a breath. "I'm sorry she's hurting," he said. "I can help her financially. I can help her find a place. But I'm not giving up my home." Margaret's face fell, as if Ethan had insulted her. "Why are you being difficult?" she asked. "Family helps family." The word family echoed in Ethan's head. He thought of the nights he stayed late at work to build his career. The weekends he skipped trips so he could save money. The years he spent alone in small apartments while Emily lived comfortably, supported, protected. "I am helping," he said. "Just not this way." Richard leaned forward. His voice sharpened. "You're choosing a building over your sister." Ethan felt something twist in his chest. "I'm choosing myself," he said quietly. The temperature in the room changed. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Richard stood up so suddenly his chair scraped the floor. "After everything we've done for you," he said, his voice loud now, "this is how you repay us." Ethan stood too, not in anger but instinct. His heart pounded, but his voice stayed calm. "I didn't ask for this argument," he said. "You came here with a demand, not a conversation." Richard's hand lifted without warning. Not to strike, but enough. Enough that Ethan flinched. Enough that every childhood memory of raised voices and swallowed feelings rushed back at once. Emily, who had been quiet until now, gasped from the doorway. Margaret froze. Richard stopped himself, his hand trembling in the air. But the damage was done. The message had landed. Obedience was expected. Resistance was betrayal. Ethan felt strangely clear. The fear he expected didn't come. Instead, there was sadness, deep and heavy. "I think I should go," he said. Margaret reached for him. "Don't walk away like this," she pleaded. "You'll regret it." Ethan gently stepped back. "I regret staying silent for years," he said. He grabbed his jacket and walked toward the door. His parents didn't follow. Emily didn't speak. The elevator ride down felt longer than any trip he had ever taken. Outside, the city noise hit him all at once. Horns, voices, movement. Life continuing, indifferent to family drama. Ethan stood on the sidewalk, unsure where to go, but certain of one thing: he couldn't go back upstairs. That night, Ethan stayed at a friend's place. Sleep didn't come easily. His mind replayed the afternoon over and over. Not the argument, but the moment his father's hand rose. The moment he realized love in his family came with conditions. By morning, his phone was full of missed calls and messages. Some angry, some disappointed, none apologetic. Ethan turned the phone face down. For the first time in his life, he didn't rush to fix things. He didn't explain himself again. He didn't try to be the good son. And as the sun rose over the city, Ethan understood something painful but freeing. That penthouse wasn't just a home. It was the proof that he had built a life of his own. And now he would have to decide how much of that life he was willing to give up just to keep the peace. The sound of the knock on the door was sharp, almost urgent. Ethan hadn't expected visitors, not after everything that had happened with his parents and Emily. He had spent the past 3 days in silence, avoiding calls, texts, and any form of confrontation. The city outside his Brooklyn apartment moved on, oblivious to the storm in his life. When he opened the door, the sight of Clare Bennett standing there made his chest tighten. Sharp, calm, and quietly confident, she wasn't just a lawyer he had worked with months ago. She was someone who had seen the part of him he rarely let others see. Someone who understood ambition and vulnerability in equal measure. "I heard what happened," she said softly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Her voice carried no judgment, just quiet concern. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he closed the door and leaned against it, feeling a weight he hadn't acknowledged in days. The penthouse, his parents' expectations, and Emily's crisis had left him drained. And now Claire's presence felt like a bridge to the world outside his guilt and frustration. They sat on his small couch, the city lights blinking in through the window behind them. Ethan began talking hesitantly at first about the penthouse, the fight with his father, the emotional slap that seemed to echo far longer than the moment itself. He spoke of feeling trapped between family duty and personal independence, of years spent building his life only to have it questioned by the very people who were supposed to support him. Claire listened, her gaze steady, her silence giving him room to pour out what he had been holding in for years. "You can't let them dictate your happiness," she finally said, after a long pause. "Love doesn't require giving up yourself. Boundaries aren't betrayal, they're survival." Her words struck him harder than anything his parents had said. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel defensive. Instead, he felt clarity, a path forward that didn't require anger or confrontation, only courage and honesty. By the next morning, Ethan had made a decision. The penthouse would not belong to Emily. It would not be a tool for appeasing family expectations. But he also didn't want to hurt her unnecessarily. He would sell Ita on his own terms and help her financially to find stability elsewhere. This was the compromise he had been searching for, the balance between helping family and respecting his own life. The process was swift. Ethan contacted a trusted real estate agent, arranged viewings, and began preparing documents to transfer ownership to a new buyer. Throughout it all, he felt a sense of liberation he hadn't expected. For years, he had defined success by approval by meeting expectations he didn't even set for himself. Now, each step toward selling the penthouse was a step toward independence, a quiet rebellion that felt righteous and necessary. Emily, unaware of the sale's finality, reached out occasionally, her messages tinged with confusion and frustration. Ethan responded carefully, with kindness but firmness. He offered financial support, guidance for apartments, and practical advice for her new beginning. She struggled to understand at first, clinging to the idea that the penthouse should have been hers. That family meant entitlement. But gradually she began to see the thought and care behind Ethan's decision. The tension between them softened, replaced with a hesitant but real respect. Meanwhile, Claire remained a constant presence. Their friendship deepened naturally, built on shared experiences and mutual understanding. Ethan didn't feel pressured to explain himself or justify his life choices with her. Conversations flowed easily from casual jokes about city life to deeper discussions about trust, ambition, and personal growth. She challenged him in subtle ways, encouraging him to take risks, embrace his feelings, and stop being trapped by family expectations. One evening, they stood on the balcony of Ethan's new apartment, a smaller space but filled with sunlight and warmth. The skyline stretched before them, familiar yet new in perspective. Claire leaned against the railing beside him. "You've done the hard part," she said quietly. "You've chosen yourself without destroying anyone else. That's rare." Ethan smiled, the tension in his chest finally easing. For the first time in months, he didn't feel torn between duty and desire. He had discovered that real love and family connection didn't have to come with conditions or sacrifices that undermined his own life. Choosing himself didn't mean abandoning others, it meant being honest. Being present and creating boundaries that protected his heart and his future. Weeks passed. The sale of the penthouse was finalized. Emily moved into a smaller but comfortable apartment, and Ethan adjusted to his new life. He focused on work, friendships, and slowly on building a relationship with Claire that felt organic, grounded in trust and shared values. There were no grand declarations, no melodrama, just the steady growth of companionship and understanding. When his parents reached out after months of silence, Ethan listened, but did not bend. He explained his decisions calmly, standing firm in his boundaries. Margaret's voice trembled. Richard's tone was tight, but Ethan didn't waver. He realized that family love didn't have to be about control or possession, it could be about respect, even if it arrived late or imperfectly. As the year progressed, Ethan's life felt fuller, not because of wealth or property, but because he had reclaimed his agency. Each morning, when he looked at the skyline from his modest balcony, he didn't feel the weight of expectations pressing down. He felt freedom. He felt hope. He felt the quiet joy of being able to love, help, and connect without sacrificing himself. One night, as they watched the city lights flicker from the balcony, Claire reached for his hand. Ethan held it, feeling the warmth and steadiness of a connection built not on convenience or obligation, but on genuine understanding. He realized that the moment with his parents, the fight, the slap, it hadn't broken him. It had awakened him. It had forced him to confront what mattered most, living authentically, loving honestly, and protecting the life he had worked so hard to create. For Ethan, that choice changed everything. He no longer measured success by approval or expectations. He measured it by courage, integrity, and the capacity to love freely without losing himself. And in that realization, he found not only peace, but a sense of true belonging not defined by walls or family claims, but by the people he chose to let in and the life he chose to build. In the end, Ethan learned that sometimes the hardest decisions bring the greatest clarity. Choosing himself didn't close doors, it opened them. And in that openness, he discovered connection, respect, and a future that felt entirely his own. The penthouse, once a symbol of conflict, became a memory of the moment he finally understood the value of standing firm, loving wisely, and embracing life on his own terms. Ethan's story wasn't about winning or losing. It was about growing, learning, and claiming a life that reflected his heart. The city stretched endlessly before him, full of opportunities, challenges, and possibilities. And this time he faced it ready, not afraid, not uncertain, but alive with hope, love, and the quiet power of a man who finally chose himself.